If you just tuned in, this is Michael James with this week's edition of Live from the Heartland Radio, and my friend Al Day is up here with us. Al, recently a book came out called The Chicago Music Scene, and Dean Milano put it together, and you show up in this book now and then. Yes. I'd like you to share with us a little bit about Chicago music history from your point of view. Where did you come from, and how did you get started, and what are the various incarnations that you've seen and been involved with over the years? So you got a chance to roll with it, brother.
All my career dead ends in the city of Chicago.
Well, we're just taking off now. We're right here. This is going to put you over the top.
Oh yeah. But I started taking music lessons from one of the guys who's been around Chicago forever. He's not in that book.
He left a few people out of this book, but it was good anyhow.
He might be in there. It's Bill Porter. Bill Porter he's a great trombone player, and he's been a jazz player around town forever. And I started with him when I was just a kid, and before he ever played trombone, he was a guitarist, and he had one little accident. I think he cut a tendon in one hand, and he would never do it professionally. But he's like a hot player. And he was given lessons because he had a hellacious divorce, and he had humongous amount of alimony. So the lessons I used to get from him were, this is a major seventh chord, don't get married. So it said, here's a chart. This is blues. You like this. This is very good. Blues, jazz. Don't get married. It was like and he did. And at one point, he did teach me how to effectively get on a fight on a bandstand with a fellow musician. But we're not going to go into that. And Bill is a great player. He was he was first trombone with Harry James, Stan Kenton. And
Harry James, why I took up the trumpet.
Yeah. He used to he told me his audition with Harry James was Bill used to he had a hernia operation, and then he gets a call for Harry James band. So they put you on the bandstand, and then they give you a solo that goes on forever and ever, and James just the stares down your throat, and he's just sitting there trying to get through the audition without popping a stitch. And it was it's great. I'm trying to think. He was with Woody Herman. He used to travel with Sinatra. He was Sinatra's first trombone player. He'd have a job in Chicago, and suddenly he'd disappear, and he'd be with Sinatra for a while. With the excuse used to, oh man, I'm not supposed to say this. Yeah, the excuse was always Bill's brother just died, and he couldn't be in for the night. He was with Sinatra. So I think his brother died like over 50 times.
So Al Day, where did you grow up?
I grew up in West Rogers Park.
So you're a local homegrown hero.
I guess so. I don't know. There's nothing particularly heroic about it, but it's.
And how far did you venture in your life? I mean, did you ever move somewhere else and live in another town, or?
No. I've always been sort of rooted here. About the time when I might have moved, I was married, and there were reasons I had to stay in Chicago. My wife got a little bit ill for a while, so and the longer I'm here, the more completely rooted into the city I get. So now,
Where was your first gig? Where was your first time you played out, either alone or with somebody else?
Well, there was high school bands that I have a vague memory of playing at St. Ignatius High School to a really indifferent audience of people who didn't, but the first professional stuff was over at the old No Exit. What you did is you went over to open stages, and you played, and you played like a 15-minute set in front of a bunch of people over and over again, and failed miserably until suddenly you got the hang of it. And now the thing of it is, after you audition on open stages, you get really good at playing 15 minutes. Then somebody gives you a job where you have to be doing 3 sets or 4 sets in a night, and that's an interesting nightmare to walk into. You know, just
Well, those were some historic things. The no exit open mics and a lot of people. Who were the people you remember? Were you talking to the no exit when it was up in Evanston or when it was down here in Rogers Park?
when it was here in Rogers Park, over in the corner,
On the other side of the street from the
Yeah.
Heartland, which has
And,
been remodeled. I don't know what they're going to put in there, but I hear the Pritzkers own it and putting a lot of money into
Oh
it.
no,
That's what I hear. But anyhow, the no exit is at 6970 North Glenwood, and it does theater now, and it now and then has concerts. There's some music on Monday nights, but you know, in its heyday, it had a lot of heavy hitter folk musicians.
Yeah, and Jim Brewer he was on Thursdays. Our Theme was a regular over there. Everybody came through. It's Tom, you know, Tom Dundee. Tom was always around there, and it was great. And then there's just a whole scene of open stages and clubs. We picked up an old reader. Somebody's, I think it was Chris Farrell, brought it out, and we took a look, and every room in the city had acoustic music. So you know, it's and I started out. You know, I went in the music school over at Roosevelt, and then just sort of playing for a living. I sort of fell into it. It was sort of hard to avoid. You couldn't, you know, you could work 7 days a week in Chicago doing this.
Now you played for a living.
Yeah, for about 20 years or so.
And then you ended up. What do you do now? You do some service kind of oriented, help the people work, as I understand.
I'm a clinical social worker, and I work with chronically mentally ill veterans in the community. And my job...
I'm sure that the music industry prepared you for that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, you know, there's not a whole lot of difference. You know, the clients I work with they have less problems than some of the musicians I worked with. So, you know, but yeah, it's a good job. And currently, my territory is South Side and Far South Side. So I'm getting to know, you know, Auburn, Gresham, and Inglewood, and Roseland. You know, it's you know, gives you an idea what the other half of the city's like. So it's good, you know. And then my music career, it's like a corpse that won't stay entirely buried. You know, I keep winding up, and now at this point, I've got my own trio, which both of the guys in the trio do a lot of other things, but that's with Don Sternberg, the great mandolin player, and this wonderful bass player named Mark Edelstein, who is, and
This is the Al Day Trio.
yeah, it's the only two guys I've ever really worked with especially over this last 20 years. And then there's a group that we're sort of still rehearsing it with a lovely singer, and one of the guys in the group is Charlie Madigan. You know Charlie?
I don't know if I do. I have a hard time remembering everyone's names.
Have you ever read Charles Madigan in the Tribune?
Oh, yeah, his kid. Or him.
That's him. It's Charlie. He's a really
Wasn't there an older Madigan from the Tribune or on Channel 9 in the old days?
I guess
All right.
guess so. Charlie's anyway. He's a great player, and then the other one that's sort of my old group from a good 35 years ago is got back together over about a year ago.
Is that Mississippi Flanagan?
That's Mississippi Flanagan, and I was told, you know, I keep hearing all these stories from the members of Mississippi Flanagan are Mike McDougall, his wife Patty, who's sort of the more recent addition to the group, and Midge Brzezowski. And Midge is this wonderful singer and a songwriter, and Mike is this ferocious rhythm player, and he's sort of he's the head of the group, and I think when they added me a long ways back as an afterthought because I was really good friends with all of them, and Mike found out that I could keep the audience entertained with some sort of bizarre story while he broke a string, so that's why I wound up staying in the group.